Hey there Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. Alright, so in today's video we are going to be taking a look at the intimate relationships, traumas and transformation, all connected with Scorpio ruling the 8th house within the natal birth chart. So this video is going to be directed towards those of you who have the sign of Scorpio ruling your 8th house within your birth chart, but it can also resonate if you have Pluto in the 8th house as well. Now, if you are a Scorpio yourself, so meaning your sun sign is in Scorpio, this video may be for you if you have Scorpio ruling the 8th house, but it is more specifically for those of you with Scorpio ruling the 8th house, okay? So I would suggest you go to the video that suits you. I'm going to be doing all 12 signs, so if you have, for example, Taurus ruling your 8th house, go to the Taurus video. If you've got Gemini ruling your 8th house, then go to the Gemini video, and so on and so forth. However, before we do get started, if you would like to know more information all about Scorpio, so looking at your Scorpio house within your birth chart, as well as looking at your Pluto sign / your Pluto house, along with your 8th house as well within your birth chart, then I have created a Scorpio season / archetype ebook. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide a link to that ebook in the description box below so that you can pick up your copy today. Okay, so with all those introductions out of the way, Scorpio specifically ruling the 8th house. Let's do this. Okay, so I'm gonna start off by looking at your approach towards your intimate relationships, followed by possible traumatic emotional blockages that you may have or just to bring to your attention. And then we're going to finish up by addressing your transformation, so looking at how you can reclaim your power. Naturally, this transformation is in correspondence with the Phoenix symbol, so really looking at how you rise up from those hypothetical ashes. Right, so looking at the approach towards your intimate relationships, Scorpio. Now, this approach is very serious. It's very focused. It's very concentrative. When you kind of cross that threshold from a long-term committed relationship or just from a mutually committed relationship overall, when you cross that threshold into an intimate connection with someone else, with perhaps this person that you're in the relationship with, things become very close, but so close to the extreme, where you are so in each other's faces. Well, this could specifically be you wanting and craving that closeness with this person, that it's almost as if their own personal space is confined. You may have good intentions in mind towards this individual that you are wanting to create this intimate bond with. However, it can come across as very heavy. It can come across as if you're trying to gain some sort of power or control over that person. Now, this can be for many reasons, you know, so even looking at here the traumatic experiences, you know, this possibility that there was something traumatic that happened to you whenever you were younger, okay? Possibly you experienced the death of a loved one. Possibly you experienced the separation from someone that you really loved, or someone was just sort of ripped away from you without your control over it. Could have even been a traumatic experience just surrounding sexual exploitation or some sort of violence or abuse. Basically, you could have experienced something traumatic, especially within your childhood, that corresponded with this control. This same sort of control that you then unconsciously, unknowingly try to seek out or investigate in somebody else. It's as if another person then comes along later on in your life and you're trying to fill that void for that thing that maybe was just really hard for you to deal with. Now, this could even be where there was just much tragedy within your life in some way, or maybe you just find it difficult to really keep a relationship alive almost. It's like you can go into scarcity mode where things become this fight to keep that person because you're almost terrified of losing them. It's as if you put your own emotional depths into the hands of this person to validate them. And I don't mean validate them in the sort of Libra Leo type of way where you're given applause and appraisal, but I mean you kind of seek out this emotional bond because you almost don't know how to fill that same emotional bond within yourself. Maybe because your own emotions were rejected in some way when you were younger, or you were forced to repress a lot of stuff. This could have been where you experienced people within your life who tried to have some sort of dominance and control over you, and you might not have thought that that was very fair, but yet it was something that you couldn't really control, especially if you were really young, you know, especially if you were just blamed for everything, you know, especially if you grew up with distrust in other people. I just feel like when it comes to intimate relationships, there's such a powerful dynamic. It's so powerful, and you may unknowingly just manipulate others into getting your way. You may give this sort of false sense of this deep connection because you lack this sort of empathy towards yourself, or you lack that emotional security within yourself. And so your intimate relationships, they may come with a lot of self-destruction and just a lot of chaos in that regard, a lot of conflict. There may be power plays over sex. There may be power plays over money and finances and materials. But yet, because this is Scorpio, there is this emotional resilience. There is this refusal to back down. There's a refusal to budge and to have the upper hand and want to almost dominate and win. And if you kind of reflect on yourself and you really look into your own inner demons, maybe it's just much too harsh. Maybe it's too cruel to look in there. It's these things that are very unnerving, unsettling, and so it creates this emotional tug of war for yourself. This could even be where you've went through some sort of psychosis or like a mental illness, or there's been something where, you know, an event where it's made you quite paranoid. It could even be, right, Scorpio, possibly you have experienced a really ugly divorce. This marriage or this union that you really put your all into, you know, Scorpio is such an intense sign. And so having it ruling the 8th house suggests that you really poured a lot of yourself, a lot of your soul into that particular union. But if that person disrespected you, betrayed you, went behind your back, lied to you, then that is so traumatic. That could have been a very traumatic thing for you to have experienced. And so maybe there was like an ugly divorce. Perhaps from that divorce there were claims involved, or there was money issues involved, or it put you into a really sticky situation where you had to move location, or you just had to start over. You know, this Scorpio energy, 8th house energy, is like the destruction. So it's destroying something so something else can grow in its place. So that divorce may have caused a lot of that destruction, but then you were forced to then go and create something new for yourself. But that in itself, that whole event may have made you perceive relationships in such a standoffish, almost negative, resentful, possibly even bitter way. You may even be in a cycle where you experience this with people, with your intimate partners. There's a cycle or there's a pattern where you gain that power, that momentum, right? That force of that Scorpio energy, and you're in it, like you're all in. But then there is that fall. There's the letdown, there's the tragedy, there's possibly even violence, and just people not being upfront with you. Possibly this could be the other way around, where you've been the dishonest one, or possibly you attract certain intimate partners into your life who they try to really have the upper hand over you, but then you fight against that. So there are these like troubled experiences that you may have when it comes to your intimate relationships, and you may be in a cycle, this continuous cycle that you may feel that you're never going to get out of. But at the same time, you know, there's a lot of passion. There's so much passion, and like I said, there's the emotional resilience, and from that emotional resilience it can create a lot of empowerment for you. But I feel like the key to that kind of more satisfying and fulfilling intimate relationship is found within you accepting your own sort of repressed desires, your own repressed emotions, accepting your, you know, what you're willing to tolerate within a relationship, learning really how to investigate that partner earlier on before you go all in and kind of find yourself in a situation that you find really hard to untangle from and get out of. And I also think it's really good for you to really address the past, like unresolved traumas, unresolved issues. I don't mean going back into the past and being like constantly in the past, because I know what that can be like, just constantly trying to fix things in your mind and yada yada. But I mean unresolved, difficult stuff that has resulted in you finding these difficulties and these complexities within your intimate relationships. So really looking at those things in order to kind of identify, well, how can you evolve? How can you grow past them? How can you make peace with your past as well? How can you let go as well? You know, looking at resentment and bitterness, my gosh, that resentful energy, if you did go through a particular ugly divorce or breakup, all that resentment is just kind of holding within you. If you don't let that go, if you go on to be with somebody else later on, you may sort of unknowingly just just feel it all out onto them and just blame them almost. And they didn't even do anything to you, that next person. And you really got to address that, because it just creates a lot of torture, not just for the relationship itself, but a lot of torture within you, Scorpio. So I kind of have touched on the traumatic experiences a little bit, but furthering on with the trauma section of this video, well, yeah, trauma may be associated with these same power struggles from when you were younger, okay? This could have been a parent who tried to dominate and control you and be very like, oh, like honed in on you and just almost expecting and taking a lot from you energetically, emotionally, spiritually. This could be even some unresolved mysteries from the past in terms of skeletons in the family closet, possibly people with addictions. These unresolved mysteries could have been connected with family members who were maybe dishonest, or people from your past that you thought, well, I really believed this person, or this is what I was told, but it doesn't add up. And you may just find yourself constantly investigating yourself or investigating relationships because of how you've been so stunned, or you've been so deceived by others in the past. You know, this could even be where you go on for many years with a certain person, or you think and you believe that you've formed a really meaningful bond with someone, but then you kind of reflect and then it starts to be different to what you perceived it to be before, in that you realize that it wasn't really what it was at the time, because there was just a lot of private, secretive stuff that you didn't know about at the time. And then only after the real self-reflection on you and other people do you then realize, wow, I was lied to. Oh, that there were secrets. There were things I did not know. You could even look back on your family, and then you come to this whole other layer of them, and you realize maybe that your parents went through something that you didn't even know, or there was a financial situation that you had absolutely no comprehension of, that once you figure it out, you're like, ah, I get it now. It all makes sense. I'm starting to understand my past traumas, or I'm starting to understand where my fears are coming from. And this even leads on to the transformation in itself, right? So looking at transformation in terms of, well, your growth and you evolving and you entering into a whole new, like, state of awareness, okay? So with this, maybe there's certain fears or things that have terrified you in the past, and you can then start to transform by addressing those fears, addressing the things that terrify you, addressing the things that give you nightmares, that keep you up at night, and learning just like how you can overcome them by facing them head on. You may be ridden with like terror and fear of people in your life, or from things not happening again. You like try so much, I don't want this to happen to me again, I don't want this to happen to me again. And by you constantly being in that sort of mental state, it almost keeps happening, because when you keep focusing on, I don't want that to happen, I don't want that to happen, you almost already then, in a practical sense, you align all of your actions with doing that. And then you close yourself off from people and situations and experiences that can actually be really healing for you. But again, you're in that cycle because you're so like, oh, I'm closed, no, I'm guarded, I'm not gonna let anybody in. And so instead of opening the door and properly allowing for that flow to come in to help with the cleansing process, to heal yourself, you almost like defend. There's a defense mechanism here that then wants to control instead, wants to have the power, wants to have the upper hand over other people and experiences, because of this refusal for you to really acknowledge your own inner demons. So really, the help with this growth is learning how to not be afraid of whatever is going on inside of you, learning how to be vulnerable, and letting go of the notion that showing your emotions means weakness. Because you may unknowingly do that. You know, you don't want other people to see you cry, get emotional. You don't want other people to see you sad, because maybe you think that it's weak. It lets down your guard. People can see then your weaknesses. They can see into you, and that's just much too private. There's things, Scorpio, that maybe you have locked away over many years, especially if you're watching this and you're older, right? And from locking those emotions and locking those experiences away, maybe it makes it harder for you to actually get to them. From all of those years of hiding them, not accepting them, you then even find it difficult to remember what exactly happened and what are the things to even be resolved. What was the traumatic experience from whenever you were 12 or 5 or even 2 years old? What are they? Because the older you sort of get, then it could be suggested that the more you just kind of numb it, become used to it, living with it. And of course, you don't necessarily even have to resolve these things or even look at these traumatic experiences. Of course not. It's just if you are getting into these cycles, right? As I was saying earlier, these cycles with intimate partners that just leave you feeling like this sense of lack, or you get into these patterns where you just can't get out of that cycle, then maybe it would be beneficial to unravel, well, what are the emotions that you don't let on about? What is the information that you hold within yourself that you don't want other people to know about? What are those weaknesses that you have that keep you back from actually evolving and moving forward? I think it's good for you to learn how to challenge yourself, really challenge your thoughts and challenge your emotions. And whenever certain triggers come up that spark something within you, trying to identify what that was and how it made you feel and what was your kind of reaction, and do you sort of unconsciously stuff things down or repress your emotions? Perhaps another way to help with the transformation could be by going to therapy or speaking with a counselor, you know, speaking with a psychologist about what's going on inside of you. But I think the most important thing is really learning how to be empathetic towards yourself and be kind to yourself. Try and not see certain emotions or showing your emotions as weakness, because in a way, if you do that, if you think that there's certain emotions within you that are weak, then whenever other people outside of you are showing those similar emotions, do you also think that they're weak? And if you think they are weak, then do you show them empathy or do you just reject them? You know, that's something to think about. You know, if you really reflect on yourself and how you treat yourself, how does that align with how you also treat other people in those types of situations? You know, I will say this, that Scorpio, you can be great in a crisis, you can be great in a state of urgency, and so other people can feel that support from you. They can feel a really strong type of character who's able to hold it together for everybody. But even you, even you can find things a bit tough sometimes. Even you need someone else to support you and lift you up as well. And maybe you have this whole attitude where you're like, well, I don't need that, I really don't, I'm fine on my own. You may even have that kind of I'll do it all for myself outlook towards intimate relationships. But maybe in a way you trap yourself into believing that narrative, that you don't need anybody else, that you don't need to form the connection because of how much hurt you've experienced in the past. But I feel that with Scorpio here, it's really learning how to be open, you know, how to open yourself up and being genuine and empathetic towards your relationships, towards other people, especially those deep interactions that you have with a certain partner. But also, I think appreciating that, like, yeah, there can be people in our lives that betray us, that let us down, but I don't think that means that you should unconsciously punish another person because of the resentment and hurt that you feel within you. So instead, to maybe actually address that hurt and pain that's going on inside of you that stifles your progress would be a good idea. And maybe even looking into your own deepest desires and your own sexual connection, that sexual drive that you have that yearns for connection. Because yeah, there may be some of you who reject that connection and you're like, nah, I don't need it, don't need anybody else, I'm good, like I'm good on my own. Or you kind of have kept things so hidden that you don't need that connection. But maybe underneath it all, there really is that yearning for it. There really is that like strong innate desire for closeness, for bonding. Like I do, like I would love that. So yeah, I feel that with the transformation process, it's good to be honest with yourself, and it's good to let go of resentment. It's good to forgive as well. But of course, forgiveness does not mean that you have to associate with that person or that situation that once hurt you or caused you pain in the past, Scorpio. Okay then, Cosmic Warriors, so that concludes my video on the intimate relationships, trauma, and transformation, all connected with the sign of Scorpio ruling the 8th house within astrology. Now, if you do happen to have your if you have Scorpio ruling the 8th house within your natal birth chart, then let us know what you thought of the video in the comment section. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching, thank you for subscribing, and of course if you would like to see more videos from myself and you have not yet subscribed, then go right ahead and click that subscribe button. And I will be back with another video very, very soon.